want to talk about another Mishneh Torah book. And it's the same Mishneh Torah. It's the Rambam's Mishneh Torah, but there's different manuscripts of the Rambam, of his Mishneh Torah. There was no printing press that he used. And so they were all based on handwritten manuscripts. Versions went to Europe, where they did have printing presses, and they were eventually censored by the printing presses because of the Christian kingdoms in Europe, the Christian governments. They censored them, changed them for better or worse. The reason why I say that actually is because in the European versions they changed goy to akum. Akum means idolater, and goy actually does mean idolater as well. So even though they changed the word, they made it explicit that it's the akum, it's the idolater. There's no basis for this that I can find, but a lot of rabbis will say that it's censored as if it was bad. But the truth is, it appears to me that that's actually a clarification. It probably actually saved Jewish lives. And now in the modern day, I'm coming to find out that was actually probably accurate, with the changing of goy to akum. Should they have done it? Probably not, just because I'm one that likes clarity, and I like pure speech. But you have to dig to find where the Rambam actually explicitly says that the goy is the akum. He says that Hilchot Machalot Asarot 11:8, and there's other places throughout Rishonim and other Torah scholars that explicitly say that the goy is the akum, or considered to be the akum, or the practices of a goy should be considered to be for idolatry, for akum purposes. Anyways, point is, this Mishneh Torah haShelem, the complete Mishneh Torah, it's one book. I love this book. It's based on Yemenite manuscripts that Rabbi Kapach, who was a Yemenite rabbi of blessed memory, he had notes. I believe he wrote his own Mishneh Torah. Not his own, but of course he compiled Mishneh Torah himself. And I believe this is based on a lot on his works. It says it is, but I'm not that deep of a Mishneh Torah scholar, so I have to take their word for it. This is a beautiful book because it has featherweight pages. So the whole Mishneh Torah is in this book. It's one volume. It's not too terribly thick. It has commentaries. It's got the Ravad commentary in it. It has references. In the back of the book, it has a calendar for its daily reading cycle. I don't know. It's by Chazak Publishing, but I don't know if this is based on if this is a Lubavitch publishing company in Israel, or if it was written for Lubavitch, written for Chabad. But this thing is a very big Chabad-centric Mishneh Torah. In other words, it has a lot of the Rebbe Sichos references. I think the approbation is from Lubavitch. And it's I just love this book because it seems to be a more accurate, precise language, particularly when it comes to the non-Jew, which is highly important for Bnei Noach. So let's like look a little bit. Oops, excuse me. Let's look inside and see. This is a Hebrew. This is a completely Hebrew book. So the thing is, you don't have to be fluent. I am not fluent in Hebrew, but I still love Hebrew books, and the reason why is because you are able to, even if you don't know, even if you're not fluent in Hebrew, you can still look up words and contrast those words with other sources of Hebrew for the same book, or and figure out what's going on. If the translation's off, if the English translation's off, things like this. Let's see here. Anyways, so it says here, Nusach Mishneh Torah, the version of the Mishneh Torah version. So let's zoom in a little bit. It says Nusach Mishneh Torah. Nusach means version. So the Mishneh Torah version, it's let's see if I can translate here. The handwriting, the Yemenite handwriting, from the precision, the precise handwriting, the precise Yemenite handwriting. That's how I would translate that. Of the Rav Yosef Kapach, a blessed memory. So the what it means is the text here, the actual Mishneh Torah text, is from the research and the works of Rabbi Kapach. At least that's what it appears to me. And how I found this book was actually through my rabbi, who's Chabad, and he told me a little bit of a backstory, I guess. We were reading Path of a Righteous Gentile. We went through that, which is Rabbi Chlorofen's book. And we were going through that, and then we were looking up the references in the Mishneh Torah, because the Path of the Righteous Gentile heavily follows the Rambam's Mishneh Torah. But the thing we were using was Tauger's Mishneh Torah from Moznaim Publishing. This is in Tauger primarily uses the European. I don't know where he deviates, if he does, because I haven't seen it yet. But every single time I look at it, it's the European version of the Mishneh Torah, which was a lot of people call it the censored version of the Mishneh Torah, where it exchanges the word goy for akum. Akum being an acronym for basically avodah zara, avodah kochavim mazalot, which is the worship of stars and constellations, or the servant of the stars and constellations, which is the Rambam's terminology for idolatry. And why that is because he starts out his Mishneh Torah with some, I guess you'd call it midrash. I don't know exactly where it's from, but I believe it's midrash of how idolatry got started, and then how Avraham came out of that idolatry. And it starts out about how Enosh and his generation basically thought the common people could not ascend to Hashem spiritually, and they needed an intermediary, something that they could understand, because that generation must have thought they were too dumb or something like that. And so what they did was they gave them a new religion, something smaller that they could do. And that's, they told them to worship the stars and constellations, basically, because that's the only thing that they felt that the common people could obtain to. which is actually very similar today to, it's kind of funny. It reminds me a lot of the Bnei Noach movement today, where you have people telling you that you can only achieve so much. Very, very similar to me. So what happened was, my rabbi, and through the readings of the Path to Righteous Gentile, we went through the Tauger's Mishneh Torah. We came to places, here, actually, let's go through this. We came to places, and by the way, the Bnei Noach laws are in the very last book of the Mishneh Torah. It's called Sefer Shoftim, the book of judges, I guess. Shoftim would either be judges or judgments. But the last chapters 8, 9, and 10 within that book, which is from the section Hilchot Malachim Umilchamotehem, is the laws of kings in the king wars and their wars. So 8, 9, and 10 is where you learn about the laws of Bnei Noach. And I've showed you guys other videos on this. But just to show you our thread of logic here is actually mine. But when we got to this part, and it might actually even been before this, but I noticed that logically, this doesn't add up. You have your Ben Noach here, who can perform mitzvahs, but in the book here it calls him a Gentile. He can perform mitzvahs if he so desires. For instance, one of those mitzvahs could be Torah study. He even says he can even do it the correct way. So you can even do Torah study the correct way, which would be to fully involve yourself in Torah study so that you can grasp the wisdom of Hashem, which is the essence of Hashem. So in essence, you're literally grasping Hashem. That's the Chabad perspective on studying Torah. Another thing I came across, which was very perplexing, is that it says a Gentile can give charity to the Jewish poor. But then it goes on to say that a Gentile... Oh, another thing too is that Tauger actually puts in the brackets here. He makes his own verbiage, and he says a Gentile who observes the 7 mitzvahs. He's referring to this Ben Noach here because in the original, in the Hebrew, it actually does say Ben Noach. But so you have your Ben Noach that can give charity to the Jewish people, to the Jewish poor, and then you have another guy that says the idolater, however, he cannot give charity to the Jewish people. And in the Hebrew, it's akum. Akum. An idolater, an akum that gives charity, he has to give it to the akum poor. He can't give it to the Jewish poor. And if you can see in the Hebrew here, it says akum here, and it says akum for both. That's that last sentence. But in the Hebrew, for the guy who can give charity, it's the Ben Noach. The Ben Noach can do any mitzvahs he wants, and then it says he can give charity. So you have a juxtaposition there that shows logical exclusivity between somebody called the Akum and somebody called a Ben Noach. You have a Ben Noach that can give charity to the Jewish people, and you have a Akum that cannot. But up here, In the previous law, Tauger says a Gentile who studies the Torah is obligated to die. Okay, so a Gentile. Oh, I was like, wow, that's pretty harsh. So when we went over here, I looked in the Hebrew, what word does it use? It uses akum. So right away, that didn't seem right from my logical mind. That I shouldn't say not right, but it didn't seem right that he would say Gentile here. Why would Tauger translate that akum as Gentile when down here he's translating Bnei Noach as Gentile as well? You can't do that. Well, I mean, you can, but I don't think you're right. So then I asked my rabbi, I was like, well, what's going on here? And he told me, well, this is the censored version. He said, this is the censored Mishneh Torah that was printed in Europe, and the Christian countries edited that. They censored it. And so I was like, okay. I was like, I'd like to look at the uncensored version. And so that's how we came to the Mishneh Torah haShelem. My rabbi said, well, actually, there is the Yemenite Mishneh Torah version, and I have that. So we went over to his house. I had to push him on a little bit. This is stuff that I come up with. My rabbi doesn't teach me this stuff unless I specifically ask or something like this. This is a lot of my Hidushim and things like this. So he told me about this version. And in here, it's different. It's actually it's worded the way you would think it would be worded. Well, one, it's Hebrew. It doesn't have the English translation. So, but the thing is, if you open up here to the same place where it was talking about in the European version, it says that the Akum can't study Torah, and the Akum can't give charity to the Jewish people. Only a Bnei Noach can give charity to the Jewish people. It starts to make sense. You start to actually see the logic, different dayas of the two different types of non-Jews. In other words, you have a non-Jew called a Goy, and you have a non-Jew called a Bnei Noach. So you can see actually down here that it doesn't say a Bnei Noach. It doesn't say a Bnei Noach here, or excuse me, akum. In the European version, it said akum here. In here, in the Yemen, Goy. The Goy that involves himself in Torah is Hayav Misa. He should only involve in his 7 mitzvahs. And then over here, when it starts to talking about who can give tzedakah and who can perform mitzvahs if he wants. Let's see here. It says, and this is 10. The previous one was 9, 10, 10, 10, 9, and 10, 10. This is 10, 10 in Hillel Malachim. This is a Bnei Noach that wants to do a mitzvah. Sorry. A Bnei Noach that wants to do a mitzvah, he can. And then it says he can give tzedakah if he wants to the Jewish people. But then it says here, it says, Aval HaGoy, however, the Goy that wants to give tzedakah, he has to give it to the Goy poor. So in 10:10 here, you see a logical juxtaposition between a Bnei Noach and a Goy. They are obviously two mutually exclusive entities. One can give tzedakah to the Jews, one cannot. And so now we establish a thread of logic between two different types of non-Jews. A Goy, a guy called a Goy, and another called a Bnei Noach. And so this is why books like this so important, the uncensored versions, is because when you're studying non-Jewish text, you need to know, is this talking about you? Are you a Ben Noach? Is this talking about you? Are you a Goy? Is this talking about you? What laws are you supposed to be following? It's highly, highly important. And so you have a lot of books, a lot of Bnei Noach books, that may or may not be conflating the terms between Goy and Ben Noach. And so you actually, it's unfortunate. I shouldn't say unfortunate. It just takes more work, because you actually, if you do get into Torah, you actually are fortunate. It takes hard work, but it's a blessing to involve yourself in Torah study if you're doing it for the right reasons. So this book is wonderful. It's one volume. It has the Ravid commentary on the. So the Ravid was a rabbi who was critical of the Rambam. He didn't necessarily always agree or disagree. He was just critical. He would say things like, well, why does the Rambam talk about this here? And things like that. Also, his Hebrew, the Ravid's Hebrew, is hard to read to me. He has a harsh language. He's kind of like sarcastic or something. I have a hard time picking up on the little nuances. There are commentaries in here for, I shouldn't say commentaries, but there are footnotes. For instance, it brings down places in the Talmud, places in just other Jewish works, basically, footnotes, and also for the Lubavitcher Rebbe's commentaries and things like that, his footnotes, whenever there's a crown, for instance, there's that the Rebbe talks about whatever is going on in the Rambam in his Lukatei Sichos, you're going to have commentaries, footnotes here for those references. Like right here, Lukatei Sichos, something about Ben Noach. So anyways, it's a really good book to have. I think it's probably like around $40 or something like that. You can get this from Kahos Publishing, Kahot, however you want to pronounce it. This is, I take this with me just about everywhere when I study, when I'm talking about Bnei Noach stuff. So I think that's about it that I really wanted to tell you guys about this book. It's got featherweight pages, so it's kind of hard. It's kind of a little hard to write in pencil. You still can. A pen might be a little easier, but it's a beautiful version. I take this with me just about everywhere. When it comes to studying, that is. And I highly recommend you guys get this. If you guys know a little bit of Hebrew, you don't have to be fluent in it. Pick this up. This is, I would say, critical when it comes to learning about laws of Bnei Noach inside. I'm constantly referring to this. I'll read the Tauger's English translation because English is my primary language. But many of you have kind of like these sensors, like these fuzzy feelings that you get a lot of times when you read English translations of works, and when they start talking about non-Jews, and such as using the word Gentile, your ears kind of perk up, and you know that you probably need to get into the actual text, the actual Hebrew text, to figure out what it's saying. This is the kind of text that you're going to want to look into to figure out what it actually is saying. What is actually saying, and who is it saying about? Is it talking about the Goy? Is it talking about the Ben Noach? Is it talking about the Ger Toshav? A lot of English translations usually translate Ger Toshav as resident alien. You usually don't have to worry about that too much. But when it comes to the difference between a Goy and a Ben Noach, which we've shown in other videos, that really is an issue. Books like this are critical. It's a beautiful book. I feel like there's something else I need to say about it, but my mind It's escaping me right now, but I think that's about it. So until next time, take care.